Hello and welcome to Network East. For several years, children suffering from cerebral palsy have been going to Hungary for special treatment. But now, with a centre opening in Birmingham, they'll be able to get help here. A report on that later. But we begin with news of a scheme in the Midlands which could transform the lives of disabled children. 1 in 1,000 children suffer from one form or another of cerebral palsy. It's not a disease, you can't catch it. But for sufferers, nothing is easy. From birth, a small part of the brain has never worked. Often simple things like walking and talking become almost impossible. For many children, conductive education, which was first started in Hungary, could prove to be the answer. Last week, the first British project opened in Birmingham. Harbinder Minhas reports. Ever since his departure from Rajiv Gandhi's cabinet in April this year, Vishwanath Pratap Singh has become the focus of opposition to Congress rule in India. Seen as a threat because of his popularity, VP Singh was moved from the finance to the defence ministry in January. He resigned over corruption scandals and was finally expelled from the Congress party in Rajiv Gandhi's recent purge of critics. Now VP Singh has taken over from Rajiv Gandhi as the Mr. Clean of Indian politics. So just how much of a threat does he pose? To help answer this, I have in the studio Prem Shankar Jha, former editor of the Hindustan Times. We've been hearing a lot about VP Singh. Who exactly is he?
He was in the Congress for about 20 years before he got thrown out. In the early 70s, he was Deputy Minister for Commerce in Delhi. Then he went, after Mrs. Gandhi's government came back, and the Congress came back in 1980, he became the Chief Minister of UP, of Uttar Pradesh, where he did a great job cleaning up dacoits in the state, among other things, and ran a clean administration. He resigned again on a matter of principle about 2 years into his chief ministership and came back to the centre once again in commerce. And after the Rajiv Gandhi government's coming back to power, he was made finance minister.
So why has he been seen as such a threat?
Well, the threat really comes from the people. Over the last 30, 40 years maybe, you've had a kind of power structure emerging in India where money has played a very important part in cementing the relationship between a new business and industrial class and the politicians. This class has placed itself above the law. And over time, resentment of the class has grown enormously. VP Singh has suddenly become the focus of this resentment because he was trying to break this link, and that's his main political platform today.
Since he was expelled from the Congress party in July, what impact has he made in the country?
Even before he was expelled, but after he left the cabinet, VP Singh, as a part of Congress, wanted to go around the country and start a debate inside the Congress on the central issue of corruption. He had sensed, and in fact, much earlier he and Rajiv Gandhi had both sensed, when they began a cleanup of the procedures of Congress shortly after Rajiv came to power, that corruption was going to be an issue on which no ruling party could afford to remain neutral, allow the things to continue. Now, raising this issue, he's been getting much larger crowds than Rajiv Gandhi's been getting.
Politically, what sort of impact has he made?
The most important impact has been in Uttar Pradesh itself and in the neighboring state of Bihar. And in these states, he gets spontaneously audiences of 250 to 400,000.
He's not aligned to any particular party, and he hasn't decided to form his own party.
No, he hasn't. He, in fact, wants to stay out of both parties and political posts.
So what's his political strategy?
His political strategy is, in fact, to keep raising issues and focusing public debate and the latent opposition in the people, mobilizing it to the present system as it exists. And eventually a party will be thrown up, or a group will be thrown up.
What particular issues is he concentrating
Well,
on?
the central issue remains corruption, remains the existence of a corrupt elite, you know, and this is not going to go away.
So what else does he need to do to form a credible alternative to Rajiv Gandhi?
Well, the thing he should not do, I think it's much easier to say what he should not do. He shouldn't go and immediately align himself with the opposition parties. The opposition parties are fragmented. They fall to the left of Congress and to the extreme right of Congress. You have the communist parties at one extreme. You have the BJP, which is the broadly Hindu Communist Party, at the other extreme. You can't form an opposition which is credible with all of these people together in it, much less with VP Singh, who has opposed both in the past. If anything, VP Singh is slightly left of center and would prefer to have some kind of a working relationship with the communists. But a close embrace now will immediately raise in the latent opposition issues which will divide that opposition.
Do you think he'll be able to form a credible alternative?
Yes, much will depend upon what happens as you come closer to the next election, which will be in 89 and 90. But assuming that the present political balance does not change very much, the way it works is that the people will come to him and the political parties will align themselves and change their strategies accordingly.
Briefly, if he does form a credible alternative, what can Rajiv Gandhi do to counteract it?
Well, he can start by trying to take the wind out of Mr. VP Singh's sails and implementing precisely the reforms that Mr. VP Singh is asking for. That's one. The second is I think he can try and reform the Congress party itself. But most important of all is the question of electoral funding, which you haven't touched upon, but I can tell you about it in a few moments.
Well, time's running out. Do you think he'll be able to succeed? Do you think VP Singh will succeed?
Again, much depends on, you can't tell 2 years in advance, but I would say that this particular thrust, electoral thrust if you like, is one that cannot fail.
Mr. Jha, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you.
From one man's dilemma to a group who've solved theirs. Until recently, pensioners in Derby spent their time meeting in parks, libraries or street corners and relied on others for their basic needs. But now all that's changed. They've taken matters into their own hands, as Kulwant Bowler now reports.